Good afternoon and welcome to the August Council meeting. Item 1, acknowledgement. We, Greater Shepparton City Council, acknowledge the Yorta peoples of the land which now comprises Greater Shepparton. We pay our respect to their tribal elders, we celebrate their continuing culture and we acknowledge the memory of their ancestors. Item 2, privacy notice. This public meeting is being streamed live via our Facebook page and made available for public access on our website along with the official minutes of this meeting. All care is taken to maintain your privacy. However, as a visitor in the public gallery, it is assumed that your consent is given in the event that your image is broadcast to the public. It is also assumed that your consent is given to the use and disclosure of any information that you share at the meeting, including personal or sensitive information, to any person who accesses those recordings or minutes. And we welcome members in the gallery this afternoon. Item 3, governance principles. Council considers the recommendations contained in this agenda gives effect to the overarching governance principles stated in section 9.2 of the Local Government Act 2020. These principles are as followed. Councillors are listed from 1 to 9 on page 6 of the agenda. Item 4, apologies, nil. Item 5, declarations of conflict of interest. I have one with 14.2. Councillors, does anyone else have a conflict of interest this afternoon? Item 6, confirmation of minutes of the previous meeting. Are any of the minutes opposed? No. Can I have a councillor please move the recommendation that is there? Councillor Schubert.
Yep. Second.
Councillor Schubert. Yep.
That the minutes of the 28th of July 2020 council meeting as circulated be confirmed.
Thank you, Councillor Schubert. Can I have councillor second that motion, please? Councillor Wickham. Thank you. Councillors all in favour? Motion carried. Item 7, public question time. I will now hand over to our CEO, Fiona Lagasse.
Thank you, Mayor Sarley. We have received two lots of questions timed for this afternoon's meeting. The first one, 7.1, public question submitted by Vicky Cook. By what specific date will the City of Greater Shepparton City Council take action about the illegal third dwelling made from 3 large shipping containers at a specific address in Tatura, and what form will that action take? So the response is, as this is an active building compliance investigation, there are confidentiality and privacy obligations that restrict council from discussing or providing specific details regarding the investigation. This includes information relating to investigative actions, findings, evidence, correspondence, enforcement considerations, or information concerning other parties. For this reason, council is unable to provide detailed information beyond general updates on the progress of the matter where appropriate. Building compliance investigations are often complex and require council to follow statutory processes prescribed under the relevant legislation. This may include the assurances of formal notices, requests for information and obtaining lawful access to land or buildings to inspect the site, gather evidence and assess the allegations that have been raised. These processes can take time and must be undertaken in accordance with legislative requirements. Please be assured that the concerns outlined in the correspondence have been recorded and will be assessed in accordance with the relevant legislation and council's compliance procedures. In addition to the building compliance investigation, the allocated officer will also consider whether there are any related matters requiring assessment under the legislation, including planning controls, permits or business registration requirements where applicable. Thank you for bringing your concerns to council's attention. The second public question time we have received from Theo Wilson. The question is, can council advise why they have chosen to maintain an ongoing engagement with M1/M Group and what steps have been taken by council to address the concerns raised in the Watson report? The response, panel contract CN 2133 for the provision of traffic management and controlled services was awarded to 9 suppliers in September 2021. The contract expired in November 2025 with no further options to extend. This contract did not include labour hire. Consideration of which companies to award a new contract for the provision of traffic management and control services will be made during the evaluation of submissions against a tender. The requirements of that tender are being developed and will likely consider pre-qualification/registration, licensing, safety, business capacity and capability requirements for the award of the contract. Thank you, Mayor Sarley.
Thank you, Fiona. Item 8, duplications of petitions. Councillors, we have one 8.1 petition for council, Kids Sound Adventure Playground. There is a recommendation. Can I have a councillor put that forward as a motion?
I'll put that forward, Mayor Sarley.
Councillor Eddy.
It's recommended that the council receive and note the petition titled Kidstown Adventure Playground in accordance with Governance Rule 83.
Can I have a councillor second that, please? Councillor Brophy. Councillor Eadie, would you like to speak to it?
Yes, thank you, Mayor Sarley. I'd first like to acknowledge the significant community response to this petition and thank everyone who took the time to sign it and make their views known. Kidstown is clearly a very much loved and important community facility, and the strong support for the return of the slides and maze demonstrates the passion people have for the park and the memories and experiences it's created for generations of local families. Excuse me. I think that passion is something we should acknowledge and celebrate. At the same time, I think that it's important to note that the community has been heard. The redevelopment of Kidstown is already progressing through the master plan, and the concepts of the new slides and maze are already being considered as part of that planning process. The original equipment could not simply remain or be returned because of its condition and safety requirements. But what is important is that the community's desire for those iconic Kidstown experiences is being recognised as the plans for the facility's future continue to develop. I want to thank the community for their passion and their advocacy. Their message is clear. People want Kidstown to retain the sense of adventure, fun and identity that has made it such a special place. I believe the master plan provides an opportunity to achieve that through modern, safe and exciting new versions of the slides and maze, while ensuring Kidstown continues to be a destination that future generations can enjoy. Thank you to everyone who signed the petition. Your passion for Kidstown is appreciated, and I look forward to seeing the master plan continue to develop with the community's views and expectations firmly in mind.
Councillor Eadie. Councillor Brophy, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thank you, Mayor Sarley. Just very briefly, in supporting of Councillor Eadie, I'm really probably not entirely sure why a petition was necessarily needed here. It's great that the public have been involved and so many of people have signed up, which is fantastic, regarding the future of Kidstown. But a petition, given the fact that we publicly announced our support for Kidstown and undergoing the process of the public consultation, which Councillor Eadie has pointed out to, and about what they would like the new Kidstown to look like, what's to include, what attractions, again, to make it the best adventure playground for the next generations to come. So thank you for that, and hopefully the 890 people that have signed it have also put in their submissions to the public consultation to say what they would really want to as well.
Councillor Brophy, any councillors like to speak against the motion? Any councillors like against?
Not against, no.
Any councillors like to speak for? Councillor Summer.
Yeah, I just wanted to thank the community. These petitions keep us on our toes. Obviously, community advocacy is important. It helps us help you because it'll keep us accountable on what structures and aspects of Kidstown you really did value and want back. So yeah, I hope that there's this much engagement when the master plan's finally out for public consultation, because that's when we can really make some real change.
Councillor Summer. Any other councillors like to speak to the motion? Councillor Wickham.
Thanks, Mayor Sarley. I really want to thank Rowan for all the work he's doing along with his family. I think it's important to understand that in a community like Mooroopna, there's a lot of volunteers that are getting a bit older and maybe lack a bit of energy, and I don't know whether Rowan's quite aware of it, but he's bringing up the next generation of community leaders, and I think Greater Shepparton has a history with, say, the International Village and Kidstown and what has been created in the past, and I think the squeaky wheel does get the most attention, and I think Rowan's advocacy within the community, whether the petition or through social media, goes a long way to keeping all of Greater Shepparton informed of how we can keep, with the council, the momentum going towards creating the playground you want to see for your future community leaders. Thanks, Rowan.
Thanks, Paul. Any other councillors like to speak to the motion? Thank the community group for taking the time to go through the troubles of putting a petition in and having it discussed as well. As it's been noted, Kidstown's important, and we reaffirmed our position on the future of Kidstown and look forward to seeing future announcements, etc., coming out towards the back end of the year. So thanks for that. Councillors, we'll go to the vote. Anything else? Those in favour? Motion carried. Councillors, page 10, item 9.1, Greater Shepparton Public Health Update. There is a recommendation. Can I have a councillor put that forward as a motion, please? Councillor Spinks.
I'll move that the council, 1, note the update of progress against council's public health and wellbeing plan and associated initiatives, and 2, approve to dissolve the Greater Shepparton Public Health Advisory Committee effective from 25th of August 2026. 3, formally acknowledge and thank all current and past members of the advisory committee.
Spinks, can I have a councillor second that motion, please? So we can. Councillor Spinks, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yes, thank you. The Greater Shepparton Public Health and Wellbeing Plan from 2018 to 2028 was a document that was inherited before my time on council, but has been a wonderful commitment to the public health of our community, of our municipality. It's not in this form, it's not a required document, but it is something that we find, and I'm glad to say continue to find, is relevance and importance for our community. Public health is essential. It's the way we get around, it's our footpaths, it's infrastructure, it's our groups, it's our the things that we prioritise in making sure not just the I don't know how do you describe public health? It's everything. It's everything. It's our well-being. It's the way that we exist and love where we live and are healthy and happy and have the opportunity to participate in every way that we want to. So public health is essential, and I think sometimes can be overlooked in the importance of it and the way that it impacts everything that touches our community. The municipal public health and wellbeing plan, it's a bit of a mouthful, has achieved many great things over the past 8 years at this point. It will be a decade at the end of it, and this is our opportunity to recognise that progress and recognise those achievements. There have been some incredibly passionate and clever people working in this space, and they have done lots of good things. And that's not to ignore that we have still got significant challenges in our community. We are noting trends within the report. It recognises family violence incidents, social isolation and obesity within the adult population, all as increasing. We all know as well, just from existing in our community, that there are other challenges that are ongoing and that we need to make sure we're focusing on. But this is a moment to recognise the good that has been done, as well as to appreciate that work needs to continue going. So I want to thank those who have been involved with the plan and the initiatives, and also to take a moment to recognise that we are proposing to dissolve the advisory committee today. That committee I did have a chance to sit on a couple of years ago, which was great. What an expert and dedicated group of people that was to sit in a room with and learn from, that all was so dedicated to improving Greater Shepparton and saw the potential of Greater Shepparton. And I thank each and every one of them for what they gave to our committee. But I think, as we are seeing with many of our committees at the moment, they continue to run against the roadblock of not having enough teeth to make impact with. And I think that is something we're seeing across a number of our committees, that frustration of being purely advisory and not having the ability to create their own outcomes. And for that reason, it's after sufficient, I would argue, sufficient reflection of that committee and the way that it functioned and what it offered. I think that honestly it wasn't a good use of their collective time. So I'm happy to say today that I support dissolving that committee, not in any way to say that in the future there wouldn't be some form of way that we connect with those who know best to inform what we need to, the decisions we need to be making. But for the moment, I'm comfortable with the idea that that is no longer the best way to reach their expertise. We do, council, the organisation, do continue to sit on relevant committees. I can't remember the name of it. There's another long name. Public health, no. Anyway, they continue to sit in the right spaces, to get the right information, to connect with the right people, to make sure that we're still having those conversations about public health and about the way that Greater Shepparton City Council approaches public health and what we need to be focusing on and funding. And so I feel confident that the expertise and information we need is still filtering into our organisation, and that's what's most important. We want to make sure that connection is still there. So I'm comfortable with this report. I congratulate everyone who's been involved in the Municipal Health and Wellbeing Plan and who sat on that committee, and I thank them for their time.
Thank you so much, Councillor Spinks. Councillor Wickham, would you like to speak to the motion? No? Any councillors like to speak against the motion? Councillor Summer.
Thank you, and thank you, Sam, for moving that. I was just listening to your speech, it's astounding really, because I agree with everything you've said, but again, we're landing on a different decision, same reasoning. Look, obviously council does heaps in the space of public health, that is clear, it's all through the report, it's all through everything we do. It's just, a registered nurse, and I can't in good conscience put my name towards dissolving a public health advisory committee. And I've also sat on that committee and can confidently say it has a lot of potential, which I don't think you disagree with. Without a budget attached, I've written here, the committee itself doesn't have much teeth, or almost the same wording, but I do believe, however, that there is value in bringing those dedicated professionals into a room together, which is also what you're saying. So yeah, look, we know there's always more council can do in the space of public health. It is not a finite thing where we've done enough. The need does not reduce in time, and as Councillor Spinks said, diabetic epidemic, childhood obesity, social media addictions, femicide, loneliness, pandemics like bird flu, the list goes on. So look, I understand we want to find efficiencies and we want to streamline operations, and sometimes the low-hanging fruit are committees, but I just don't think that those goals should be at the expense of public health. And we've attracted quite a number of very high-profile people as members of that committee, like MPs, GPs, CEO. This all demonstrates really strong community interest. So rather than seeing a duplication of local services that we already provide, I see a complementary forum that builds on these networks and ideas. We're learning from a task force of diverse public health activists, basically, and that's arguably more nuanced, more responsive and more effective than following a list of actions in our council plan, which seems to be what we're falling back on. Look, I think committees like this in public health, it builds our public health capital, and I'd just rather not see it go, to be honest. So yeah, I'm not going to support that today.
Thank you, Councillor Summer. Any councillors like to speak for the motion? Councillor Akers.
Thanks, Mayor Sally. Happy to. It's complex when you've got two things to speak to here, but the plan, I think, is making some progress, and it's good to see that we have hit some targets and we've got some increased health benefits there in pregnancy, early pregnancy, and you know, which is positive to see that the plan is working. And I think Councillor Spinks certainly highlighted some areas that we still need to work on, and the plan has addressed that, and it will continue to. I think I certainly thank those that have been involved in the committee. It hasn't been meeting very regularly of recent times, and perhaps going forward, if we've got an issue, we should bring people together that have got a particular skill set to address a particular issue with a finite timeline on it, so that they can commit and provide their skills that are required to address an issue, and then they can complete it, rather than going on for years and years. I think might perhaps be, in this modern day and age, a better way to address some of those committee issues.
Very good, thank you, Councillor Akers. Any other councillors like to speak to the motion? Or reply, Councillor Spinks?
Yeah, the only thing, I mean, again, I think this is just a matter of agreeing to disagree on this one, and we're the same all the way to the end, so that's perfectly fine for me and Councillor Summer to disagree. But the only thing I would point out, for me at least, I don't feel that this is an efficiency decision. I think this is genuinely the natural place that this particular committee is to. So I'm comfortable. If it was an efficiency discussion, I think I might not fall into the same level of comfort, but for me, I'm not bothered by it. I don't think that's correct. There's a word I'm looking for there, but I'm not doing great at speaking today, so it's fine.
Thank you, Councillor Spinks. Councillors, if there's nothing else, we'll go to the vote. All those in favour? Against? Motion carried. Page 17, item 9.2, Greater Shepparton Best Start Early Years Strategic Plan 2026 to 2031. There is a recommendation. Can I have a councillor put that forward as a motion, please? Councillor Wickham.
Thanks, Mayor Sally. The proposed council meeting recommendation that the council adopt the Greater Shepparton Best Start Early Years Strategic Plan 2026 to 2031 as attached.
Thank you, councillor Wickham. Can I have a councillor second that motion, please?
Second that motion, Ms Sally.
Councillor Wickham, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thanks, Mayor Sarley. This plan gets developed to sort of run for about 5 years and obviously pulls together some really clever people that work amongst our early years sort of area with kindergartens and aged care and the new mums, new parents sort of facility that's being built in Shep. It had been pointed out in some of the briefings we'd received that perhaps the plan was a little bit light on actions, but I can assure you that those actions are developed on a yearly basis throughout the plan and are designed to move with the plan as it sort of needs to meet the needs of the community. So there's some great work being done in this space and there's some really quality people involved in bringing this plan together. So good to see this coming back around here to the table.
Thank you, councillor Wickham. Councillor Brophy, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yes, thank you, Mayor Sarley. In reading through the detailed report in regards to this, one thing that stands out for me when I think best start, it's best opportunity. And at the core of all of this is that there's a paragraph towards the end where it says about considerations, and they're talking about economic considerations, but it's much bigger than that. It's about investment in early childhood, and it's critical. There is extensive research and economic modelling that shows the earlier the investment, the greater the return. And that's emotionally, it's socially, it's developmentally, a whole range of things there. So prioritising early childhood, in particular the ages from 0 to 3, is when we have the biggest influence in shaping the trajectory of our children. And we've got a little one out there at the moment too, so it all falls right into that particular category. If we are providing a positive, safe and nurturing environment where children can thrive, along with the quality early learning, health and wellbeing programs like maternal child health, playgroups, kindergarten, etc., and a community that supports families and is child-friendly when we go along, goes a long way to ensuring that our future adults are competent, confident and productive members of the community. So it's far more than economic. It's an intrinsic part of it, and again, best start is best opportunity.
Councillor Brophy, any councillors like to speak against the motion? Councillors like to speak for the motion? Councillor Summer.
Thanks, Mayor Sarley. I think it's a terrific document. It's really well written, inclusive, clearly describes a broad, holistic view of our early years landscape. And I'm really impressed with the acknowledgement that family structure has shifted from the traditional model, and also impressed that the impact on poverty on early years, all those challenges are strongly recognised as well. Look, if I had any criticism, it probably echoes that of some submitters that came back during consultation saying the plan lacks detail and clear goals. There is a reason for that, so I can assure the public that there is an action plan attached to the strategy, but it's been deemed an internal document because the action plan itself will undergo changes every year, whereas this document has to last 5 years. And I've got no doubt that our dedicated staff will be working very hard to achieve those actions. But as a forward-facing document, I can see how it could be perceived to lack clear goals and targets. But in it also says how we're going to evaluate our success, and that'll be evaluating the data from the Australian Early Development Census and comparing our outcomes, and that will indicate our success or otherwise, keep us accountable that way. So early years are critical years. This time is when a new human is shaped to fit their environment. The success of those years have lifelong repercussions and can't be understated. And for that reason, I'm just so proud Council continues to play such a substantial role through Best Start. I think it's really good work in this strategy, and we're lucky to have such dedicated professionals on our team, and I wish them all the best on this next chapter.
Very good. Thank you, councillor. Any councillors like to speak against the motion? For the motion? Go to the vote. All those in favour? Motion carried and opposed. Councillors, page 22, item 9.3, Merrigham Community Plan 2026 to 2030. There is a recommendation. Can I have a councillor put that forward as a motion, please?
I'll move it. Thank you, Mayor Sarley.
Councillor Schubert.
The question is that the council note the Merrigham Community Plan 2026 to 2030 as attached.
Thank you. Can I have a councillor second that motion, please?
Mayor Sarley.
Councillor Schubert, would you like to speak to that?
Yes, look, I spend time out at Merrigum and and I'm always in attendance at their community planning meetings, and I've got to say, I'm just impressed. Small communities such as Merrigum that have been innovative in certain areas, whether it's a local emergency action plan or the community plan, they've been very good, and it's great to see such a small community rally in such a way, and I was very pleased to have their community plan presented to us, which I thought they did an outstanding job. So I'm happy to sort of endorse that motion. Thank you, Mayor Son.
Very good, Councillor Schubert. Councillor Eddy, would you like to speak to the motion?
I might just say, I think the Merrigum Community Group, a fantastic group, who seem to punch above their weight all the time. And some of their achievements are the three-point basketball court, the splash park, the installation of shade structures and seating around Judd Park, not to mention some of the events they hold. They're really doing quite a good job.
Very good. Thank you, Councillor Eddy. Any councillors like to speak against the motion? Councillors like to speak for the motion? Councillor Summer.
Thank you. Just to mention how great it is to read through community plans. And it just demonstrates that in this council, small towns are highly valued. These plans allow future direction to be set by the people who actually live there. And that ensures that each small town retains its unique identity and it's not overlooked during the budget process. And obviously we can't necessarily fund everything on the list, but the good people of Merrigum are kicking goals, as Councillor Eddy said. We've got the free splash park, new entry sign, playground shade sales, unisex public toilet, and their own moving art cow. That's just to name a few. And that demonstrates what can be achieved with this plan with regular communication with council. And now we've got new projects and directions to consider: safety, infrastructure, and managing sustainable growth. So, yep, look forward to working with them to help them deliver their goals out in Merrigum.
Great. Good on you, Councillor Summer. Any other councillors like to speak to the motion? Councillor Crawford.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor Sarley. Yeah, very connected group has been told the story here by Councillor Schubert. Don't forget the fish out pond over there, which has been very successful. Upgrade to their old water supply, and it's going to be remodelled probably throughout Victoria on the basis of that one that's been done in Merrigum. But I do wish I'd win a few more football games.
Good, thank you. Any other councillors like to speak to the motion? Councillor Wickham.
Just quickly, I think Merrigum does punch above its weight. It's one of our small towns that's connected to town water and sewage in a unique arrangement with Kyabram, which is interesting. And they also have a golf course owned by the council, so a lot of good stuff happening in Merrigum. Well done.
Good. Thank you, Councillor Wickham. Any other councillors like to speak to the motion? No? If nothing else, we'll go to the vote. All those in favour? Motion carried, unopposed. Councillors, page 28, item 10.1, cyber security policy. There is a recommendation. Can I have a councillor put that forward as a motion, please? Councillor Wickham.
Yeah, the recommendation that the council adopt the cyber security policy as attached.
Thank you. Can I have a councillor second that motion, please? Councillor Brophy.
I'll second that motion.
Thank you. Councillor Wickham, would you like to speak to the motion?
I think it was put to us in terms of the need for cyber security within the council. Obviously, this is an issue that's becoming more complex day by day with AI and other risks around in terms of IT. So one of those things that whilst there might be some interesting things within the policy, it's one of those necessary things to protect the council organisation. Thank the council for providing us with all the information.
Thank you, Councillor Wickham. Councillor Brophy, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thank you, Mayor Sally. Just one point, and that was, I'm a bit surprised we hadn't had this particular policy come before us now. I think it's probably well overdue. I welcome the policy. I dare say that with the ever-increasing white-collar crime, the hacking of information, extortion, people being compromised with their personal data and that is in the cyber security area, this policy is not only needed, it's to be reviewed in 3 years' time at the end of August in 2029. I dare say with the ever-increasing level of technology moving quicker, it might be reviewed a lot before then.
Thank you, Councillor Brophy. Any councillors like to speak against the motion? Councillor Summer.
Thank you, Mayor Sally. My understanding on this policy is that outcomes would be implemented regardless of whether or not we decide to move this motion. However, moving the motion will make it easier for staff to justify these measures. So I'm no expert on cybersecurity at all, and it's probably unfounded, but that response just made me wonder if the policy could be challenged, like if there's any overreach in there. It's got a really heavy focus on surveillance, monitoring and restrictions, and it also applies to councillors. So it's possible I might feel a bit more comfortable if councillors were exempt from this policy. There's only 9 of us in a big organisation, but we're not exempt. We're not staff and should not be subject to the same limitations whilst conducting our independent role as elected officials. So I won't be voting in support of a policy that could consciously or subconsciously restrict how we freely and fairly go about our business. I'm always concerned if there's monitoring restrictions and limitations. So I understand that the climate out there in technology is quite riddled with hazards. It can be quite dangerous and potential great harm. But without understanding more about it and why we have to be included on this thing, I'm not in favour.
Don't have to use phones or laptops.
Understood.
Very good. Any councillors like to speak for the motion? Councillor Truffle.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor Sally. I think with AI and all the things that's going on in the world now, I've just been at a seminar and it's just moving so quick. All this type of stuff which will revert back to cyber security and that type of thing. So I think it's something that's going to have to be done. And as far as my details being in there, I've got nothing to hide, so I don't have a problem with it. So.
I agree with councillor.
Very good. Any other councillors like to speak to the motion? Right or reply, councillor Wickham? No, very good. Councillors will go to the vote. All those in favour? Against? Motion carried. Page 31, item 10.2, July 2026 financial report. There is a recommendation. Councillor, put that forward as a motion.
Happy to move, Mayor Sally.
Thank you, Councillor Akers.
Council note the July 2026 financial report is attached.
Very good, thank you, Councillor Akers. Can I have a councillor second that motion, please? Councillor Brophy.
See the motion, Mayor Sally.
Thank you. Councillor Akers, would you like to speak to the motion?
Oh, just quickly, Mayor Sally, not very exciting, and as at the end of July, we'd hope we're pretty close to on track, and I'd suggest we are. We've got a surplus there at the moment. We'd hope we would at 89 million. It's a little bit higher than the year-to-date budget, but that's just timing differences. So, look, for a month in, I think we're pretty well on track for what we can say.
Thank you, Councillor Akers. Councillor Brophy, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yeah, look, just in regards to that, Councillor Akers is right. The balances are out, and you look at, we want a surplus, but 87 million is looking pretty good if we stopped everything here now. But it over a period of time, over the 12 months, it pans itself out. A bit early in the first month to really sort of see where we're at. And a couple of months down the track, we'll know whether the budget is on track or not. But what we are seeing now is, which is coming up, are contracts that have been tendered out for capital works and so forth. So it'll get underway very soon.
Very good. Thank you so much, Councillor Brophy. Any councillors like to speak against the motion? Any councillors like to speak for the motion? In favour? Motion carried, unopposed. Councillors, page 34, item 10.3, contracts awarded under delegation July 26. There is a recommendation. Can I have a councillor put that forward as a motion, please?
Oh, happy to move.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Akers.
That council, one note that one contract has been awarded under delegation pursuant to a formal procurement process for the reporting period, and 2, note the request for tenders advertised but not yet awarded.
Thank you, Councillor Akers. Can I have a councillor second that motion, please? Councillor Wickham. Councillor Akers, would you like to speak to the motion?
Oh, yes, just look, exciting to see that we have a tender out for a consultancy, and the project's called City River Lake Project. So this is about seeing we can perhaps reinvigorate Greater Shepparton and the city, and whether it's going to have a connection to the river and what the pathway is going to be. And so let's hope we can get a plan for the future of the city of Shepparton, and that's exciting that we've got something that we can potentially work towards over the coming decade, I dare say. So without a plan we won't move, and let's be interesting to see the type of thing that comes out, and I look forward to the community consultation which will happen, and more so the feedback that we get from the community. I'm sure it'll be mixed. There's a couple of people around this table or council have some views, and we're looking forward to receiving others from the community. So, and a number of tenders there, and I'll leave someone else to speak about that.
Thank you, councillor Akers. Councillor Wickham, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thanks, Mayor Sally. Yeah, obviously, generally quite a lot of things coming across the table in terms of projects that the council are trying to deliver. Included in this includes some air conditioning in the council buildings, and also, excitingly, a new grandstand at Tat Park over there to support the likes of Dairy Week, etc. So some great stuff coming.
Very good. Thank you, councillor Wickham. Any councillors like to speak against the motion? Any councillors like to speak for the motion? Councillor Summer.
Thanks, I will speak for it because it is quite an exciting project that Councillor Akers mentioned, and it is in awards, so I'll speak to it. To my knowledge, this is the first CBD strategy since the early 2000s, I believe, and a lot's changed since then. So I'm really hopeful that this will spark some life back into the CBD and produce something that everyone can be proud of, because we all use the CBD to travel here, shop, play and stay, no matter where you're from in Greater Shepparton. And they say we've turned our back on the river, and since water is the backbone of this community, celebrating water through rivers and lakes, it all makes sense. And if we can integrate the river frontage back into CBD living, which I don't believe will be a very easy task, but it would be pretty amazing. I mean, the amount of consultation we need to get through to do it, the amount of thinking outside the box to make meaningful change is immense. I do think we're fit for the challenge. I just hope that the scope isn't potentially too broad. So I'm cautiously optimistic that this will be a huge success, and I can't wait to read the first draft.
Thank you, councillor Summer. Any other councillors like to speak to the motion? Councillor Truffle.
Yep, thanks, Mayor Sally. Yeah, good to see the River Lake project positioning, activating and integrating the Shepparton CBD rivers and lakes. If you're not aware, there's some consultation going on about a boat ramp being put in at the back of the Shepparton Cemetery, of which some of the management will probably land on council in that particular thing. So there is progression with certain different projects that people probably really don't know about. So, so that integrating with the likes of the push bike track, the likes of the walk track that goes from the Shepparton, the gardens, the botanical gardens right through the town and around, making that loop down through that area and back along Gemmell Swamp and around, which is a project that's probably going to be over a number of years. But good to see some of that in the planning as far as the master planning, and bringing this together would, I believe, dovetail into that projected project of future to come. So yeah, it's good to see.
Very good. Thank you, councillor Truffle. Any other councillors like to speak to the motion? No, we'll go to the vote. All those in favour? Motion carried over. Councillors, page 37, item 10.4, community satisfaction survey 2025 to 2026. There is a recommendation. Can I have a councillor put that forward as a motion, please?
So moved.
Schubert.
The motion is that the council note the community satisfaction survey 2025 to 2026 report, which provides insight into community perceptions of council's performance across a range of services, facilities and strategic measures.
Thank you, councillor Schubert. Can I have a councillor second that motion, please? Councillor Akers. Councillor Schubert, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yes, thanks very much, Mayor Sally. Look, just in reading all the indicators in overall performance, community consultation, advocacy, it goes on and on. So pleasing to see our overall performance is 65% versus statewide 58 and regional centres 57. So overall we're doing an outstanding result. And when you look at all those indicators, there's only two that we're behind either statewide or regional centres. That's waste services and sealed local roads. I think the sealed local roads creates a lot of confusion because people assume all the roads within the Greater Shepparton City Council are council roads, which I think that's one of the reasons why I think that score is a bit lower than some of the other regional centres. But absolutely great report, and I think we're just absolutely heading in the right direction. Thanks, Mayor Sally.
Councillor Akers, would you like to speak?
Thanks, Mayor Sally. A very positive survey again, and I always like to look at those things we need to focus on, and I pull out three so that I can tell the community at this point in time there's three things in there which I think they are telling us we need to address. One is red bins, rightly or wrongly, that they say we need to have a look at, and that may well be a communication issue, and we've got something to come to council later today, because, I mean, we've had some reports back which talk about the fact that the red bin service and the progress we've made is very positive. The community don't see it that way, so we need to address that issue. Public toilets, very disappointing result in the survey about how our public toilets are perceived, and it's something we probably, whether it's because of whether they're dirty, whether it's about people that are homeless using them for refuge or whatever, but it's something we probably need to consider. The other one that's scoring probably a lot lower than I would like in there is our town planning, and that's something we need to get on. So I'll give the community the heads up. They're the three out of this very positive survey that I think we can focus on to help the community perceive us even better.
Thank you, councillor Akers. Any councillors like to speak against the motion? Any councillors like to speak for the motion?
Thank you, Mayor Saleh. When you look at surveys, it's always subjective, and I know that we've had this company over a long period of time and going out and doing some terrific work that gives us a really good barometer over a period of time, using the same, pretty much the same questions with the same different level of cohort that we go out to get, and then comes back to us. So it is subjective, and normally if you say it is subjective, it's because you're not doing well, and you say, oh, it's all subjective. Well, we're actually doing well, and it is subjective because it just depends on which cohort happens to be surveyed at that particular point in time. But as opposed to Councillor Akers, I want to give a good heads up to one of the ones that are doing well. So the customer service ones who are doing a terrific job, whether it be on the counter, over the phones, or just the interface that council have out there with the public. That's significantly increased over, and it has for quite a few quadrants now. So well done to them there. And I certainly take the point regarding the sealed local roads. A lot of people do get confused. You know, quite often I'll go, oh, that road, hang on, that's a state road, or that's a federal road, and that type of thing. So I think by and large, we've still got issues, but you know, our potholes on our local roads are doing pretty well, I think.
Very good, councillor Brook. Any councillors like to speak against the motion? For the motion?
Thanks. No one likes it when we pat ourselves on the back, but honestly, this is, when I first started council, it was really low. It was really low, and it was not close to what regional averages at that point, I don't think, and it just keeps going up and up and up, and this term has just gone out of the ballpark. And to be honest, I've never read so much praise for a sitting mayor in all my years on council. So I just want to say that it's an honour to be part of this group. Whatever it is we're doing right, let's keep doing it. And I appreciate all of you every day.
Thank you, councillor Summer. You're welcome at any time. Councillors, anyone else like to speak to the motion? No, if there's nothing else, we'll go to vote. All those in favour? Motion carried, unopposed. Councillors, page 43, item 11.1, draft domestic animal management plan 2026 to 2029. There is a recommendation. Can I have a councillor put that forward as a motion, please? Councillor Summer.
So I'll just find it. So I will move that the council, one, note the draft domestic animal management plan 2026 to 2029 is attached. Two, endorse the release of the draft domestic animal management plan 2026 to 2029 for public consultation for a period of 4 weeks, commencing Monday, 31st of August 2026, and concluding Friday, 25th of September 2026. And three, note that all submissions received will be considered by council prior to finalising the domestic animal management plan 2026 to 2029 for adoption at a future council meeting.
Very good, thank you, councillor Summer. Can I have a councillor second that motion, please? Councillor Wickham. Councillor Summer, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yes, thank you. People are very passionate about their pets, and we are very passionate about keeping pets safe and returning them to their owners, which is why registration, amongst other things, is important. So obviously this strategy does go broader than household pets. As a regional centre, we deal with all sorts of critters, from livestock to roosters. And I'm really happy that this draft will be sent to advisory committees, actually, like the Disability Advisory Committee, for comment, because there might be special needs that we might have missed in here. And I do encourage the community to get on board during consultation. Animal management is clearly the one issue that I get the most calls about, and it's the one that probably hits people the hardest in terms of emotion, attachment, and potentially poor behaviour outcomes if we don't get it right. So we want to de-escalate, we want to make sure we get mutually beneficial outcomes here, and encourage the community to help us through consultation.
Very good, thank you, Councillor Summer. Councillor Wickham, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yeah, just quickly, I think talking with ratepayers and citizens amongst Greater Shepparton, I think there is a level of pride amongst pet owners, and obviously if they're willing to put forward information that can further support people enjoying pets in our community in a safe way, whether that be through looking at different ways of charging for registrations, whether that's one family registration fee rather than per animal. So yeah, I think there's a lot in here to sort of for the community to sort of get involved with and sort of offer up recommendations to make Greater Shep the place to bring up your pet.
Thank you, Councillor Wickham. Any councillors like to speak against the motion? Any councillors like to speak for the motion? Councillor Trofel.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor Saley. Yeah, it's you go out there and have a look at the animals in there. It's pretty heartbreaking as far as what happens to them and where they end up as a result of some of their mistreatment or unloved actions. One of the things that that I would like to probably see happen would be perhaps a real good look at the bird flu coming along with perhaps the returning of injured birds that might end up in this particular facility, but that's just a point of we must keep an eye on.
Thank you, Councillor Trofel. Any other councillors like to speak to the motion?
Yes, thanks, Mayor Sala. I was surprised when I read the figures, and I think, just to remind everybody, animal rangers responded to over 2,000 requests for assistance from the community each year, including the provision of a 24-hour animal emergency response service. On top of that, they've supported and cared for over 2,000 animals per year at the Shepparton Animal Shelter, which is a bit to what Councillor Trofel was saying. It's really sad going out there to see what's happening to some of those animals and some of those pets that have been left behind, malnutrition and goodness knows what else. It's really a heartbreaking sight to see. So I just encourage anybody that's listening, or anybody that wants to hear us, please look after the animals and let's lessen this 2,000 requests for assistance each and every year. Thanks, Mayor Saley.
Thank you, Councillor Schubert. Any other councillors like to speak to the motion? Councillor Spinks.
I will. I just want to say I'm really personally happy to see one of the items that's in the draft plan is to investigate a low-cost or possibly free desexing program that we could offer to the community. There are case studies of councils that have offered that sort of program that have had really good results, both in terms of the animals and the impact they have on the community, but also in terms of economics for the council because of the reduced impact it has on the services. But, you know, one of the things we know really impacts our community is animals not being desexed and being possibly irresponsibly bred. So many dogs coming through the shelter that through no fault of their own exist and have to either try and find new homes or have their lives ended, which is a terrible outcome. And cats continue to be a burden on our community. Those that are loved and cared for are wonderful pets, but so often when they are not being desexed and responsibly cared for, they end up creating so many generations from one cat that become nuisances to our community. They harm and kill our natural environment, our natural animals, and that's something we need to manage, and we need to do something differently, I think, because it's been an issue for a while, if not ever. So we need to come up with a different way to try and help our community to make those choices, to best support their animals and to best to support our community. So I'm hoping that will be well received within the draft, and obviously as we put this draft out to the community, we encourage everyone to have a look at it and have their say about what they think should or shouldn't be in it, or anything we've missed or needs to be considered.
Thank you, Councillor Spinks. Any other councillors like to speak to the motion? Right, we'll go to the vote. All those in favour? Motion carried, unopposed. Councillors, page 48, item 11.2, Asia Fruit Logistica 2025-2026. There is a recommendation. Can I have a councillor put that forward as a motion, please? Councillor Brophy.
I'll put that forward, Mayor Saleh. That the council, one, note that at the scheduled council meeting held on the 16th of December 2025, council endorsed continued participation in Asia Fruit Logistica Hong Kong 2026 and approved the mayor to be included in the delegation. The two, note that Mayor Councillor Shane Saleh is unable to attend Asia Fruit Logistica Hong Kong 2026 due to existing commitments. And the three, approve the Deputy Mayor, Councillor Jeff Akers, to represent Greater Shepparton City Council as part of the council delegation attending Asia Fruit Logistica Hong Kong 2026.
Thank you, Councillor Brophy. Can I have a councillor second that motion, please? Councillor Wickham. Councillor Brophy, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Saleh. I won't go through the merits and the benefits of attending because that was fleshed out when this particular motion was put forward last December. What has happened is that unfortunately yourself, the Mayor, is unable to attend due to existing commitments. Therefore, because it wasn't written into the resolution last time, that the Mayor rightly would be then attending on behalf of council. I think it's probably an oversight that we probably need to include if we're going to look at 2027 for Asia Fruit Logistica, to do that in a future resolution, just to make sure that that's right. There is no backup plan, so hopefully Deputy Mayor Akers is right, and we'll put him in bubble wrap between now and the departure to make sure that we don't have to go to another resolution. But all the very best and Godspeed.
Councillor Wickham, would you like to speak to the motion? Thank you. Any councillor like to speak against the motion? For the motion? Councillor Summer.
Thanks. Just to mention that, again, the public aren't always favourable about these things and we need to justify it, but I will say the delegation is not a holiday at all. It is an uncomfortable flight and a full schedule to represent fruit growers of our region. And ratepayers deserve a report card from these trips so we can justify them. We need to get much better at communicating the benefits that come out of these trips to our community. It could be introducing a new apple product into the international market, could be unlocking $100,000 contracts, could be just inviting delegates to visit our region, and whatever it is that comes out of it, the public have a right to know. It's their money. So each year we do this, it gets harder to justify because I don't think we're doing it well enough, and it has to be possible to communicate outcomes broadly enough that it does not compromise commercial in confidence. Has to be. So I'm sort of putting council on notice here because it's getting harder to support these things in a way. But I do believe Deputy Mayor Akers and the council staff will do us proud in showcasing our region, and I look forward to sharing their success with the public.
Any other councillors like to speak to the motion?
Thanks, Mayor Saleh. Sorry.
Go Councillor Spinks first and then I'll continue.
Thank you. I just want to say I am happy to support this motion today that's in front of us, but having said that, each year that it comes around I do question its relevance and question whether it's something that we should be involved in. And my main reason I end up being happy to support it is because the right people are going to do it. I think it is a reality that it depends on the individual who is in the seat going over there. I have confidence that Mayor Saleh has been one of the right people to go over and represent our region in this matter. I know he's passionate and dedicated to the agricultural industry in our region and making sure it thrives. So it feels correct that he's able to go over and well represent. And in this instance, I feel equally confident in Deputy Mayor Councillor Akers in being able to adequately represent our community in this particular delegation. I don't think that it is something we should just assume we will do and assume that the right person will be at the head of it. I think we should still question it each time it comes around, but in this moment, I'm happy to put my support behind Councillor Akers and wish him a safe trip.
Thank you, Councillor Spinks. Any other councillors like to speak to the motion? Councillor Schubert.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor Saleh. Look, in the absence of Mayor Saleh, I'm confident we're sending our best man forward, Jeff Akers, and come back and enlighten us to what the fit was. And I must admit, I was a bit of a doubting Thomas about whether or not there was any justification and whether or not it was worthwhile sending people over there. I did go to Fruit Growers Victoria to their opening session last week, and I've got to say, 3 or 4 people, I wandered around having a look at the stand, 3 or 4 people approached me and said, it's so good, because I had my councillor badge on, they knew who I was, where I was from. They said, it's so good, council send a representative over to Hong Kong each and every year, so I fully endorse Councillor Jeff Akers, Deputy Mayor Akers over there. Thank you.
Councillors, anyone else like to speak to the motion? Councillor Truffle.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor Sarley. Again, on the back of your comments, Councillor Schubert, I think Jeff's the right bloke to go over. His knowledge as far as the industry within his history as far as the dairy industry and all that type of thing puts him in a good spot. I'm looking at the financial implications here. Flights and accommodation, you're certainly not flying first class. You're going over. Food and transport, you're not eating out anywhere. Total cost of council delegation, only $10,700. Total cost of council, the stand exposure is $3,000. In our budget, we allowed for $40,000, so it's coming well under that, with notice there on page 51 that there has been a grant come forward through the fruit growers. I attend quite a few international events and bits and pieces, and this is cheap. This is so cheap to have our growers on a grandstand in Hong Kong, where you've got the consumption of the world there is such as just enormous, absolutely enormous, and fruit and dairy underpin this area. So I just think it's so cheap to get these people over there, and very happy to be represented by Councillor Akers. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillors, if anyone else like to talk to it? We'll go to the vote. All those in favour? Motion carried, unopposed. Councillors, page 53, item 12.1, feasibility assessment, Mooroopna Parks and Footpaths Reference Group. There is a recommendation. Can I have a councillor put that forward as a motion? Thank you, Councillor Wickham.
Thanks, Mayor Sarley. The recommendation that the council receive and note the findings of the feasibility assessment undertaken in response to notice of motion 4-026 regarding the proposed establishment of Mooroopna Parks and Pathways Reference Group.
Thank you, Councillor Wickham. Can I have a councillor second that motion, please? Councillor Brophy. Councillor Wickham, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yes, I would like to thank the council for their work in the background to look at the possibility of establishing such a group in Mooroopna, following the floods and following some of the drainage project that's been completed at Howe and Lenny Street. Other projects that have been going on, such as GV Link, and noticing that some of the new housing developments are creating some amazing spaces for families, along with paths and shared paths, and also the new River Connect path that's connecting Kidstown with Gemmell Swamp. Mooroopna does have a unique sort of landscape due to its flood overlay, and obviously living in a flood zone, but that has obviously some benefits potentially for how the Mooroopna community utilise the spaces within Mooroopna. So there was a really good report that came back from council officers, obviously highlighting that there are already some really good user groups within the Mooroopna community in the Mooroopna Community Plan and the Mooroopna Recreation Reserve Group, and that perhaps this group was not warranted due to our current strong links with community, but it certainly does highlight the need for the Mooroopna community to continue to engage with council in ways in which we can greater connect the whole of Mooroopna, along with infrastructure such as Kidstown and Shepparton, given some of the complexities around flooding that can disconnect walkers and scooters, etc., accessing Shepparton on the shared path in the floodway. And I think there's some great work that potentially the different user groups have Mooroopna can do in order to reach out to some certain groups in the community and maybe pull together some really good concepts around how the whole of Mooroopna can connect better and make use of some of these shared paths and parks. So I thank the council for the work they did in sort of investigating the potential for this group. Obviously there are restrictions and limitations in ways of groups being formed and obviously what those groups can achieve, but I feel very confident knowing that the council are doing everything they can to engage with the current groups in Mooroopna to see a really positive outcome for Mooroopna in terms of its shared paths and parks and spaces for families to enjoy. So I thank the council for their work on this.
Very good. Thank you, Councillor Wickham. Councillor Brophy, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thank you, Mayor Sally. This is a very detailed report on the back of the notice of motion by Councillor Wickham. It was pretty much what I thought with the outcome, but that there are forums and there are established groups who do and can do referencing of the parks, of the pathways, the asset infrastructure that make up places in Mooroopna. I think what has been highlighted by this report is the extent that council go to have the community engagement on public assets within their neighbourhood, and I think that this has been really highlighted. I'd like to say well done to the council officers who have compiled this report. I think it's excellent, the detail that they've gone through to cover all of the aspects of the notice of motion, and also to Councillor Wickham for raising this at the time too. Well done.
Thank you, Councillor Brophy. Any councillors like to speak against the motion? Any councillors like to speak for the motion? Councillor Summer.
Thanks. I just wanted to congratulate Councillor Wickham for his advocacy. He's clearly got an intimate knowledge of Mooroopna and future Mooroopna and past Mooroopna, and he had really sound reasons for wanting to progress a user group. And now that you know where to look when it comes to outcomes, I'm sure you'll be following that really closely and give us all updates in time. So yeah, well done, Councillor Wickham.
Very good. Thank you, Councillor Summer. Any other councillors like to speak for the motion? Councillor Spinks.
Thank you. I also want to thank Councillor Wickham for bringing this to the table. I agree, as Councillor Brophy has said. I think it did end where I thought it would in terms of the specific reference group being inquired about. But what it has also done, which was unexpected, I think, for me, was I think highlighted that I think we need to elevate and change the way we consider Mooroopna in terms of our regional city and the way that people exist across the river. And I say that not as though I'm recognising Mooroopna for the first time ever. What I mean is, as Councillor Wickham said, that connection even of the pathway between our two towns is we have seen in the last 2 years or 5 years, how many times have we seen that go underwater and people are sharing livelihoods across that river both ways? How are we making sure that that we aren't separated, that we are a connected, coexisting, wider city? Mooroopna as well is growing, and I think at last check was at 8,000 population, possibly even more. No longer, that's not a small town. That's a large thriving town, and we need to make sure we're considering how all of the services and resources that are being fed into the Shepparton community are also feeding into or across from the Mooroopna community. I think for me that's what this was really highlighted, and I thank Councillor Wickham for that, in that Mooroopna is basically the same distance from the Shepparton CBD as Kyla West is, or North Shepparton, and we need to start looking at how we can make sure we're not treating Mooroopna separately and as some small town that's across the way, but we need to look at how we're designing our city and the city of the future and what that means on both sides of the river. So while I don't think the reference group is quite the right way to go about it, I think that this is, for me, started a larger conversation that we need to make sure we're having. So I appreciate that.
Any other councillors like to speak to the motion? We'll go to the vote. All those in favour? Motion carried unopposed. Councillors, Page 58, item 12.2, contract number 2427, electric clearance tree pruning services. There is a recommendation. Can I have the council put that motion, please?
Happy to move.
Acres.
The council, one, accept the tender submitted by contractor A for contract number 2427 provision of electric line clearance tree pruning services. Two, note the contract term is for a period of 3 years. 3 in brackets also with one in brackets option to extend the contract for a further 3 in brackets 3-year period subject to conditions. The estimated contract value over a 6 in brackets year period is $2,595,000 inclusive of GST in brackets. 3, authorise the Chief Executive Officer to execute the contract documents and approve any contract extension as deemed appropriate.
Thank you so much, Councillor Akers. Can I have the councillor second that motion, please? Councillor Wickham. Councillor Akers, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yes, thanks, Mayor Sarley. This contract replaces an expired contract which expired on the 20th of December 2025, and the services are used by our Parks, Sport and Recreation Department with the works thankfully overseen by our arboriculture team. So I note that they supposedly know how trees should be pruned and can give some advice, I can tell the community. We get a lot of feedback about how we prune trees, but hopefully there's a bit of expertise with the contractor and our team overseeing what's going on. An audit is conducted of the areas that need pruning. The successful contractor will then be engaged to prune nominated trees, ensuring council meets the objectives of electric line clearance management plan and complies with the electric line clearance with the safety regulations. This contract is for a period of 3 years with a 1-year option to extend it for a 3-year period again, which is effectively $375,000 a year contract. Council advertised the provision of electric line clearance tree pruning services via our e-Procure and the Shepparton News with 5 tender submissions received. They were evaluated by our tender evaluation team, and panel recommends contractor A, and I haven't got my iPad with me to name them. I'm not sure whether we're supposed to name them or leave them as contractor A, but I can tell people that he's a local contractor which has come to the top with a very competitive price and met the requirements of the contract, and happy to support the recommended contractor be appointed for the period of the contract.
I will get a councillor to read out those names if they do have them.
Harbour something, isn't it? Somebody's got the name.
We'll continue and we'll read them out. If not, I'll do it myself if no one's able to do it, if they've got that in front of them. So we just do put that name on the record from an official perspective. Councillor Wickham, did you want to speak to the motion, please?
No.
Any councillors like to speak against the motion? Any councillors like to speak for the motion? Fiona, through you, can you get those?
Yes, we'll just get the details of who the successful tenderer is. I'm just looking in on tap. I haven't been able to find it. Beck, are you able to identify that through the... Yeah, thank you. Just get the governance team to identify names of the contractors.
Okay, that's fine. Robbie, you can, that picks that up.
Not clearly, if you could repeat it.
Chris, do you mind? Yeah.
Other dynamics, isn't it?
Okay, so the successful tenderer will contractor A for contract number 2427, provision of electric line clearance tree pruning services is Arbor Dynamics Proprietary Limited. All good. Cheers. Thank you. Okay, any other councillors like to make any further comments before we go to the vote? No, thank you. Okay, councillors will now go to vote. All those in favour? Motion carried, unopposed. Councillors, page 61, item 13.1, councillor activities, July 2026. There is a recommendation. Can I have a councillor put that forward as a motion, please? Councillor Brophy.
Thank you, Mayor Sally. I put forward that the council receive and note the summary of the councillors' community interactions and informal meetings of councillors as attached.
Thank you. Can I have a councillor second that motion, please? Councillor Wickham. Councillor Brophy, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thank you, Mayor Sally. Look, there were a number of things that have been listed down. We've had interactions with the meetings, etc. There were a number that weren't actually in the list, so I might read them out so people are aware that councillors have attended that as well. One that councillors attended was the 2026 Fruits of the Valley Cyclocross, which was at the Shepparton Velodrome. Again, highly successful and well run there. It was during NAIDOC week. There was an art exhibition over at MEAC, over in Marupna there, which was very well attended. The first Youth Foyer 10th birthday was held during that month as well. 10 years since the foyer has been established there in Friars Street, and it was a wonderful celebration for that. The Shepparton Business Festival launch was at the Pepper Mill, and you couldn't probably fit another person in there. So the business community certainly got behind the business festival, and that's been running, and it's been sensational. I attended a breakfast with the Committee for Greater Shepparton regarding Victorian businesses and the virtual reality and technologies that are coming to the fore over the next few years. That was very informative. What's Up With Water, which was sponsored by Elders and presented by David McKenzie, was really informative. That was a very good presentation. Obviously, the Furphy Literary Awards, both the junior and the senior, were held in there. I went to the senior one the night before the National Tree Day, which was the next day, and again, the one tree per child, we're well ahead with Greater Shepparton with that. And one I've got to mention, which is the Greater Shepparton Sports Hall of Fame digital display, which was finally presented. And if you get down to the stadium in the foyer there, please go up there, and it's interactive. Pick out any of those that are in the Hall of Fame, or the junior one as well, and you can just sort of see why they've been put into that presentation over the last decade.
Very good, thank you, Councillor Brophy. Councillor Wickham, would you like to speak to the motion? Any other councillors like to speak against the motion? For the motion? Councillor Summer.
One that stood out to me, I'll just give a plug for this one, Disney's Beauty and the Beast Sponsors and Supporters Night. That's coming up, so I hope everybody's got their tickets. I certainly do. Be remiss not to mention, I hope it's okay, but Councillor Sam Spinks is in that Entourage, and I'm sure she'll do the best job.
Any other councillors like to speak to the motion? No. We'll go to the vote. All those in favour? Motion carried, unopposed. Councillors, item 14.1 on page 63 of the agenda. The following report and associated attachments have been designated confidential by the Chief Executive Officer under Governance Rule 111 and in accordance with the definition of confidential information in the Local Government Act 2020 in brackets the Act. GV Link Enterprise Park Stage 2 Development Pathways. These documents contain information which is consistent with the definition of council business information, being information that would prejudice the council's position in commercial negotiations if prematurely released. Councillors, item 14.2, closed meeting to members of the public. There is a recommendation. Can I have the council please move that? Councillor Wickham.
That the council, one, pursuant to section 66(1) of the Local Government Act 2020, resolve that the council meeting be closed to members of the public for consideration of the following confidential item. GV Link Enterprise Park Stage 2 Development Pathways. To authorise the meeting chair to publicly announce the outcome of 14.3 GV Link Enterprise Park Stage 2 Development Pathways, Part A, of the resolution following the meeting being reopened to members of the public.
Thank you. I have a councillor second that motion. Councillor Summer. Councillors all in favour to close the meeting to the public? Motion carried. Thank you and welcome back. Item 15 on page 64 of the agenda, notice of motion 7/2026 weekly landfill brackets red lid bin collection service. There is a recommendation. Can I have the council put that forward as a motion, please?
I move that,
Lady.
Mayor Sally.
Yep.
Move that one, that the council requests a council officer report be prepared outlining the financial, contractual and operational implications of returning to a weekly landfill bin, in brackets red lid, collection service across the municipality. 2, the report should include but not be limited to the estimated annual cost of reinstating weekly landfill bin, in brackets red lid, collection services, the financial impact on council's waste management budget and future waste service charges, the financial and contractual implications of the current curbside contractor and any resulting impacts on council, the implications of varying, renegotiating or terminating the current curbside waste collection contract, including the penalties, compensation, legal obligations or other associated costs, the feasibility and time frame for implementing a return to weekly landfill, in brackets red lid, collection service, any operational, environmental and resource recovery impacts arising from a change in collection frequency, any alternative service delivery models that could provide residents with increased landfill collection services while balancing cost, environmental outcomes and contractual obligations. And 3, the report to be presented to council no later than November 2026 council meeting.
Thank you, Councillor Eddy. Can I have a councillor second that motion? Councillor Wickham. Councillor Eddy, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thank you, Mayor Saley. This motion is really about responding to an issue that many people in the community continue to raise with us, the desire to return to a weekly general waste collection. Whether you agree with fortnightly collection or believe we should return to weekly collection, there is a clear and significant part of our community that remains unhappy with the current arrangement. They deserve to have their concerns properly considered. This motion does not commit council to changing the service or to breaking any contract. It simply asks for a report so that council can properly understand the financial, contractual and practical implications of returning to weekly general waste collection. The issue has also taken on a new level of importance following the Coalition's announcement that if elected, it intends to require a return to weekly general waste collection. If that were to occur, council could potentially be faced with a significant change to our current arrangements. Rather than wait until we are forced to react, I believe it is sensible and responsible for this council to get ahead of the issue and understand exactly where we stand. We need to know what the community's options are, what it would cost, whether our current contract allows for a change and what the consequences would be if it does not. The community has asked us to look at this. There is now also a real possibility of future government policy requiring us to deal with this. For these reasons, I believe it is entirely reasonable that council seek the facts and be properly prepared. I therefore move the motion.
Thank you, Councillor Eddy. Councillor Wickham, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yes, Mayor Saley, I'd like to commend Councillor Eddy on this notice of motion. As he pointed out, it's a very hot topic within the community, and obviously with the state election coming up and the opposition flagging that they see this as a potential vote winner. I think it's exciting reading the notice of motion and seeing what's going to come back for us to look at and debate. I think Greater Shepparton is a real leader in local government in regional Victoria. Obviously we have a complex community ranging across the urban Shepparton city and some smaller towns, so there's a lot of complexity here. I think Greater Shepparton have already done some amazing work in the space of waste management, and that's been highlighted this year in us actually reducing our fee for bin collection to ratepayers, which is exciting. We've done a lot of heavy lifting in reducing landfill that currently goes to Cosgrove, and that saves the ratepayers money, as it's been seen in reducing those fees. So obviously this space is changing rapidly, and there's potential to continue to educate the community about how to reduce waste. And this potentially can be managed whilst introducing a weekly red bin collection. Waste can still be reduced whilst picking up on a more regular basis. So how do we balance that that cost and that benefit? So it's exciting to see that this could potentially even be facilitated from a state level with funding, which would then further increase our satisfaction survey results, along with how popular our mayor is. So thank you, Councillor Eddy. This will be exciting to see what comes back in November this year.
Thank you, Councillor Wickham. Any councillors like to speak against the motion? Councillor Spinks.
I'm sure it'll be of no surprise that I'm speaking against it. I'm nothing if not consistent. So here we are discussing the red bin again. I will not be supporting this motion. And once again, I'm going to walk through the why we did it in the first place. You're one of not that many councils that have a landfill. We have a big old hole in the ground to put waste in, but we are rapidly filling the cells, and once we run out of space, that's it. There's no plan. Plus, each year, the EPA levy, the cost of putting waste in that landfill is going up. So we're running out of space, and it's getting way more expensive to throw things away, and that is a problem. So we came up with a solution to buy us more time. It doesn't solve the problem, but it buys us more time. And that's it. That's as simple as why we chose to move to a fortnightly red bin. And we decided the fortnightly red bin was the best solution because we looked at how people were using their red bins, and the data showed that of the 100% of space in the red bin, a percentage could actually be going in the yellow bin and another percentage could be going in the green bin. And because we had the glass bin introduced and the 10-cent CAM deposit scheme, another portion could go out to that. And I'll just take a moment to bust a little myth. This idea that we are still paying the same amount for less bins being collected. It's not true. We're still having the same number of bins being collected each fortnight. It's the way you use that space. If what you're actually saying is all I want to do is fill my red bin and I have half the space, then you're right, that is true. But if we're looking at how much waste a household produces overall and how they put it in their bins, then it's not. There is the same amount of space. It is up to households to use that space correctly to make sure that they're sorting their waste correctly. And we have to do it at the household level because once it gets to the landfill, it's all mixed up and sorting becomes an expensive nightmare. And so if you can get the households to do it the right way at the source, then you've done so much work as the individual. And a part we don't talk about enough, and I think part of the reason it keeps coming back to us, is that there needs to be an individual accountability to the household. The waste that you are creating does not disappear when you put it out to the curb. That waste goes somewhere and everybody in the community has to wear the cost of that waste being created. So we changed the bins so that the space was being used correctly, because the reality is if you just have a red bin, then people are going to use it. That is how it works. Human beings love ease and convenience. You're going to put everything into the red bin because it's right there. So we had to make it slightly less convenient. That is the reality of behaviour change. But we knew it would be difficult, so we implemented additional things. We created the nappy collection service, which is awesome and has diverted thousands of nappies to be recycled. We introduced the bigger recycling bins for households to upgrade to for free, and we are going to implement our hard rubbish collection to support people to avoid tip fees and help with bulkier items. So we're working on all these different ways to manage the barriers to the inconvenience. Inconvenience can be worn, but barriers can't. And there is a reality that the community are very welcome to get a larger red bin or even to get a second red bin. If the household creates that much waste because of family size or lifestyle needs, or just because they don't care and they don't want to participate in the sorting, then that actually is totally fine, but that is a cost for them to wear. And I don't say that heartlessly, but we are trying to do a community level change, and it is up to the individuals how they want to participate in that, or if they don't even want to participate, but the wider community shouldn't bear the cost of that individual's choice. So we have made that change, and those are the many, many things we did along the way to support our community with that change. And the data is showing that the change is happening. Since the bin changes have commenced, we've diverted a whole heap of waste from landfill. Over 4,000 tonnes have been diverted, which equates to like 900,000 saved for the ratepayer base. which is the whole aim of the game. We wanted to see less residential waste going into landfill because we knew that there was a whole part of the contents that could be put into other streams to be reused or recycled and doesn't need to go into a hole. And that is what we have achieved. But on top of that, we've seen a whole lot more going into our green bins to be composted, and we are maintaining acceptable contamination rates, which means it's clean going into the green bin, and that means the majority of our community are doing the right thing. We've also seen glass moving out of the yellow bin into the purple bins, which has created even more space. And so the message there is that all of the waste is actually starting to go where it's meant to go, and that was the entire point. That is our community doing it successfully and us reaping the benefits as a community because of it. Changing the red bin to fortnightly doesn't solve the problem that our landfill will continue to fill up and that it will continue to get more expensive. That is a problem that will need a proper solution in the long term. But right now, we have slowed down that process and we have benefited the whole community because of it. That was the whole point, and we're doing it. It's successful, and everyone around this table knows that. But every time we have to go back and talk about the red bin and suggest it go back to weekly, we are not focusing on how we can keep making waste better for our community. We are just going back to the start. If we go back to the start, we'll have solved nothing. From your points, Councillor Eddy, it is ridiculous that the Liberal government is proposing to dictate local government choices in one of our core services. And though some in the community may continue to be against the changes, the data is showing clearly that we are doing a good thing. So no, I won't be supporting this motion today because it's the wrong direction and offers no solution, and we need to be doing better than that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Spinks. Any councillors like to speak for the motion? Councillor Brophy.
Thank you, Mayor Saley, and well spoken, Councillor Spinks, too there. Firstly, thank you to Councillor Eddy for bringing this forward. It seems a bit of a recycle, pardon the pun, but as councillors have brought similar notices of motion forward previously on this. So at first I thought, okay, here we go again. But then this is an opportunity. This is an opportunity to publicly provide rationale around how we got to where we are and going forward. Is it perfect? No, it's obviously not, because Councillor Eddy has brought this forward and asking questions in regards to it. So it's not perfect. We had a detailed briefing going back in May as to how we were tracking in waste. And briefings, although confidential in nature, what I can say is that the policy that was implemented 4 to 5 years ago is coming to fruition. Moving from the red lid, the yellow lid bins to fortnightly, to the green lid to weekly, it's never going to be a panacea in 2 or 3 years' time. It was going to take longer. It was a medium term to a long term. It was not a sugar hit on the waste. For the first time, green waste in tonnage is being collected more than straight landfill. And that's incredible. There's not many councils can say that. Recycling remains, as mentioned, steady, but in real terms it's much better, because yes, we're taking out the glass, and yes, the container deposit scheme materials, and people are putting the right things in the right bins, and it is making a difference. As I said, this is incredible because we are the only one of few councils that have our own landfill facility. Less is going in there. That means there's less in EPA levies, less in resources, environmental impacts, etc. We do listen to our residents, and as pointed out by Councillor Spinks, there are other bin options that you can have, the nappy collection system, etc. This has resulted for most people in Greater Shepparton to have less waste service charges on their rates this year. Now, if you had said that 4 or 5 years ago, it would have been incredible that we could actually reduce it because of the way that we're actually behaving. Well done, Greater Shepparton. Most people take a second or two to think now what goes in what bin. And it's working. So I'm very, very proud of the good people of Greater Shepparton that it's actually making an impact, finally. It's not perfect, and not everyone is fully accommodated, because it depends on individual circumstances and needs. Now, just before I finish, just imagine if this was reversed and we go to weekly red bin collection. More people putting just any item into the red bin. Higher landfill, which will fill up, higher costs, potentially higher waste service charges back on your rates, and new contracts, which will have to be redone again. And I ask the question, why? We've come so far in this particular period. So I applaud Councillor Eddy for raising this, and whilst not predetermining the outcome of what the council officer's report will be, I am buoyed by what has been recently presented to councillors. We are on the right track. We've just got to keep working at it.
Thank you, Councillor Brophy. Any other councillors like to speak against the motion? Any councillors like to speak for the motion? Councillor Schubert.
Yes, look, thanks very much, Mayor Sali. I just referred, when I saw this agenda item come through, I referred to the consumer satisfaction survey. There's only two major issues, waste services and sealed local roads. I think we can all understand why sealed local roads is an issue. But at the end of the day, we have to listen to our ratepayers. They're the people that we represent, the residents of Greater Shepparton City Council is who we represent. And when they talk about waste services, they say dissatisfaction with current waste arrangements, fortnightly red bracket general bin, requests for weekly red bin collections. They want to continue. They want to have, we go back to weekly. And then what residents say will improve results, they say weekly red bin collection. I think it's pretty straightforward why we need to conduct this survey. We need to understand what people of Greater Shepparton City Council are really thinking. Because the indications already from the customer satisfaction survey is this is exactly what they want. Well, at some stage we've got to put residents' needs first, in my opinion. At some stage we need to do that. Thank you, Mayor Sally.
Sorry, point of clarification, it's only 600 residents that we survey, isn't it, in that?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Just checking.
Yeah, that's, I understand your point, Councillor speaks, but still it's an indication.
Thank you, Councillor Schubert. Any other councillors like to speak against the motion, for the motion? Councillor Summer.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much, Councillor Eddy, for bringing this forward. I think it's a really good discussion with some really good debate so far. And I also concede that council, well, my understanding was the council introduced fortnightly collections, yes, to force recycling and reduce landfill, but I didn't realise we had a landfill crisis going on, asking about that, based on the reports that we've been getting, that this initiative has been pretty successful by all accounts and purposes that we have been showing, but public sentiment has not kept pace with environmental benefit at all. So under the Local Government Act, section 106 service provision, it states a council should seek to continuously improve service delivery to the municipal community in response to performance monitoring. And E, service delivery must include a fair and effective process for considering and responding to complaints about service provision. So council will likely argue that we are doing this, but since we reduced the frequency, our waste collection satisfaction score went from above average to consistently below average in our community satisfaction survey that Councillor Schubert referenced. So I think we've probably made our point and most people understand recycling by now, and I have enough faith in them to think that they're not just going to revert straight back to a red bin. So there's no reason to assume contamination would increase. And what really concerns me is that there's no time frame on this. We're just going to keep going and going and going with community up to, like some councils I've heard up to 10 years, they still don't want the weekly red bins, and councils are so stubborn they just refuse to admit it might not have been a good idea even though it's a core service. So personally, I would prefer, and I'll be vocal about this, I prefer a weekly recycling service. The items are bulkier, they've got less volume, and they don't go towards landfill. So it won't impact any rising EPA fees, it won't put pressure on our landfill space. The contents of the recycle bin are considered to be a resource, so we should be taking every effort to maximise what we recover from that. It won't impede environmental benefit, and it will support moving towards a circular economy, which is apparently what we want to do. And back to that landfill comment, I'm a bit alarmed about that. If we are behind in landfill space, that's because of licences and preparation. That's been an administrative issue, certainly not a waste issue. And I don't think residents should be punished for that. And there should always be a plan B. So in lieu of getting clarification on the status of Self 5, I would I would just mention I'm very concerned. I hope we can get back to that in a briefing with more detail on the status of our landfill. And all I know right now, my recycle bin is completely full. It's chockers. I've played Tetris with that thing. I can't get one more thing into it. And that means either stockpiling recycling for another week or have the same issue the following fortnight because I've stockpiled it, or I might put it in the red bin, which I hate doing that. I just don't like doing that because it does. It increases fees, increases rates, and the resources are wasted. And it's more than inconveniencing to have to make that decision week on week. So I'm willing to explore any avenue for increased waste collection right now because as a frustrated resident myself, I see it. I'm living it. I don't like it. I don't think we're doing our job. I agree with the people who speak up. So even if one household recycles fully and does everything right, but they can't cope with the reduced collections, if there's even one, it means we're not doing our job. Our job is to collect the waste and be fair and be equitable and do it well. And I don't know where else you think it's going to go. We have a rubbish dumping problem, and large sections of our community are very difficult to educate around waste because English isn't the first language. It's not easy to get to each household and explain. And it might not be that the right things are going in the right bins. It might actually be the right things are going in no bin because there's no room. And we'll never stamp out contamination entirely, but squeezing an essential service to breaking point is not the answer. And I do have faith that people will continue recycling. We have made our point. And I'm also supporting this motion because it answers the question. The answers in there might actually be kind of comforting to us, because my understanding is there's no need to terminate a whole contract. It'll just be a straightforward variation, and that won't incur any penalties or compensation. And if the contractor went above a reasonable fee.
I think, sorry, we just might have to retract that comment because the comment around it wouldn't incur any additional fees on the contractor because that point is what we're requesting. We've just got to be conscious around not.
Yeah, well, I might be wrong though. So, yeah. I mean, I can retract it, but I don't see why.
I think it's just be careful when we assume what contractual outcomes might be incurred with this, but that's what yours. I'm just making sure that.
If it's, like I said, if it's variation, should that not? All right, I retract that comment. If the contractor decided to charge more than what was reasonable, it wouldn't bode well for future contracts, I would imagine. So that risk is minimal. I don't believe it's going to come back scaring us. And if it does, I'd be asking a lot of questions. And I really do like the point you made, Councillor Eddy, that the Liberal Party could be imposing this on us. So I agree that it's better to be prepared than it is to be surprised. So even if you don't agree with changing it back to red bins, if you don't prepare, again, we're not really doing our jobs there. It's probably a minimal risk, but it is a risk. And I'm grateful the Liberal Party did that. I can't believe I'm saying that, but it might have given us confidence to show us that it can be done, it can be changed, and it probably should be changed. How that looks, I don't know, but grateful for this head start.
Any other councillors like to speak to the motion? Councillor Truffle.
Yeah, I'll keep this short because we're all nearly falling asleep with such long things. Environmentally, I would say this is about the environment, filling holes. Holes we actually dig. We don't. The holes aren't just there. We dug the hole in Mason Street for the clay for Erskine's Brickworks. We dug the hole down the Wanganui Road for clay for Erskine's Brickworks and the sand, and then we made a mountain out the road which we call now Botanical Garden, and it's over rubbish. So there's no natural holes around here that we're just filling up. We're digging holes to make this. As a little bit of a spin-off of this, I would hope if there could be a measure on environmental dumping as a consequence of these red bins not being filled. So I don't know if there's a measure we can get from Parks or Deakin, whether there's another flow-on effect dumped in the environment, which is becoming more and more and more. Red bin overflow, I believe just goes straight to other bins. So if you can't fill it in a week or you can't get it, you've got to wait a fortnight, they're going into another bins. And environmentally, I'd like to put another suggestion forward to go back to washing our nappies rather than making another service for all that. So when my mum was around, I don't want to go into it any further than that, but But, yeah, I'd recommend that as a recommendation that's coming forward too. But yeah, thank you very much for bringing that forward.
Very good. Thank you, Councillor Shaw. Any other councillors like to speak to the motion? Yeah, Councillor Akers.
There we go. So as somebody that lives in a rural region, there's certainly times on a Friday in summer when I'm glad my house is no further from the road than it is, and I think I need a mask to get the bin to the road because of the smell. But we did receive a confidential briefing at council which had a whole lot of information in it. Probably made me think that, well, I've got to persist because I support this resolution, and as I talked about in the survey results before, I don't think we've informed our community about what's going on in this space and the impact and how far the community has moved. And if we did that, we showed how much less has gone to landfill, how much more we're recycling and the cost benefit of that. The fact that we haven't got to dig more holes. I'm sure some of the community will look at it differently, and it's important that they understand it. We haven't taken them on the full journey as to the benefits that have been gained, and I think we need to do that. I think this resolution clearly articulates, it'll show that there's benefits, not benefits, it'll show whether there's costs or the not costs, it'll show whether there's contracts that will be breaking. So I agree with most of the points that have been made today. I look forward to the results. I don't think there's that much work in it. I think a lot of the work was presented to us at a briefing. We need now to bring that back to a council meeting and debate it again, and then it'll be out there for free public information, which I think it should be, and how we move forward with rubbish.
Before I go to your right of reply, Councillor Eddy, I'm going to support the request because, I mean, it's obviously timely, which has been mentioned, with what could be imposed potentially at the end of the year. I think the key point is here around just what it means from a contractual perspective as well, so we'll get that done. So waste is our core service, we know this, in regards to picking up. But what we've done is, since we rolled out the fortnightly bin collection, we've sort of added the nappy service, so that's a great addition. The extra 360 litre recycling bin, I can give you council's, which you can get access to. So they're free upgrades. The nappy service is also a service that is free. And when I mean free, subsidised by the ratepayer, that's what our role and responsibility is, to provide a waste management service that can best accommodate all people within our region. We can pick the bins up weekly, fortnightly, monthly, every day, but there's a cost associated to doing that. That's the reality of it. So trucks coming around every day, picking up the waste, taking them to Cosgrove landfill, there is a cost to dump that waste. Obviously, if the levies, ultimately community pays, so council, it's a cost recovery model. We don't make money off waste. What it costs to pick up your waste and dispose of that is effectively what everyone gets charged. So ultimately, that's what the report would bring, is to suggest that if we are to do weekly or change our current pattern, what are the costs associated with that? And maybe community are willing to pay. Maybe there's a possible extra charge associated with this. We don't know this, but we do know that if you take more waste to landfill, there is an additional charge. And we don't make any money off that. Obviously, as I said, it's a cost recovery model. So we'll get all these numbers. I think it's timely. We'll break it all down and understand. And if there's an ability to change things and make it cost effective, environmentally effective, but ultimately deliver a core service for community, which is our priority. We've effectively had to go down this pathway for a couple of reasons, which is obviously an environmental component, but it costs too much money to take waste to landfill at the moment. It's as simple as that. It just costs too much money to take waste to our Cosgrove landfill. If it doesn't cost as much, maybe we can have a different conversation, but otherwise community will have to pay at some point because, again, it's a cost recovery model. So this recommendation, I like it. It's timely. It allows us to be on the front foot with what may or may not happen in the future, but it's probably one that's just expanded on some reports that we've had in the past, which is around what does it mean from a contractual perspective from the waste management service that we get, and ultimately if we continue to pay the higher levies at Cosgrove, what does that mean from an everyday ratepayer and the charges that they will have imposed on them? So yeah, it's good. I support it. Let's see where it goes, and we'll make a decision in the future about what happens. So, right or reply?
I think we've pretty well covered everything.
Great. If there's nothing else, we'll go to the vote. All those in favour? Against? Motion carried. Item 16, documents for signing and sealing, they'll receive. Urgent business not included on the agenda. I don't think it's any urgent business, but I'm going to hand over to Councillor Jeff Akers to read out what was endorsed in the confidential agenda item that can be shared publicly. He was the chair of that period of the meeting. Over to you.
Well, thank you, Mayor Sarley. I will read out the part of that can now be made public, which was what we agreed to do. This is part A of the resolution. So that Council 1 notes the GB Link Enterprise Park Stage 2 Development Pathway Report by Ethos Urban, June 2026, provides support to continue with the current development pathway outlined in option 1 within the report of GB Link Stage 2 or part thereof, including a commitment to undertake a request for expressions of interest for some or all of the remaining lots in Stage 2, other than lots 5 and 6, which can continue to be sold by private treaty on a similar basis as Stage 1. Namely, that exceptional circumstances continue to apply, being sale of land at a discounted market value for early mover advantage and corresponding purchaser obligations to develop in defined timeframes. 2, approve a $300,000 allocation to conduct detailed design of GB Link Stage 2 with a final commitment to continue with the current development pathway to be considered once the outcome of the detailed design is available. This will be a capital expense in addition to the 26-27 capital works budget. 3, acting under section 114 of the Local Government Act 2020, resolves to commence the required statutory processes to give notice of an intention to sell lots 5 and 6 within the proposed Stage 2 of GB Link Enterprise Park by private treaty, being the land generally shown on the plan titled GB Link Staging Plan Current as attached and being part of the land contained in certificates of title volume 11071 folios 690 and 695 on the following terms. A, to one or more business operators, manufacturers, producers or persons of a like nature, and B, in consideration of commitments from the purchasers or purchaser to the early development of part or both relevant lots. 4, in accordance with section 114 of the Act and the Greater Shepparton City Council's Community Engagement Policy 2021, authorises that a public notice outlining Council's intention to sell lots 5 and 6 within Stage 2 GB Link Enterprise Park by private treaty and calling for submissions to be A, placed in the Shepparton News or other news publications chosen by Council officers, and B, and published on Council's website. 5, authorises the Chief Executive Officer and or their nominees to undertake the administrative procedures necessary to carry out Council's functions under section 114 of the Act in relation to this matter. 6, notes that following the completion of the consultation process and any submissions received in relation to Council's intention to sell lots 5 and 6 within Stage 2 of GB Link Enterprise Park will be considered by Council at a future scheduled Council meeting. 7, commence the expression of interest or the EOI process to test market interest in Stage 2, not including lots 5 and 6. 8, having regard to the procurement policy, approves the direct engagement of Spire to undertake the Stage 2 design services for the GB Link Enterprise Park project for an amount of approximately $300,000 exclusive of GST, given extenuating circumstances, namely the supplier's unique project knowledge, existing design intellectual property and the need to meet critical project delivery timeframes. Thank you, Mayor Sarley.
Well done. Councillors, now to item 18, which is close of meeting at 5:15. Thank you.
Right.